All right, welcome to the Bigfoot Society podcast. My name is Jeremiah. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight on your Friday night. Got a great show planned for you tonight. Going to be a lot of fun talking with the guest I have, and we already got a ton of cool people in the chat. Let's shout out a few people. We got SoCal Squatch. What's up, party people? I believe that's Todd Hale. We got Mr. Westport Aquarium. Mark Marcel is beer 30 like an hour or two ago. That's for sure. And we got Jonathan Easley hanging out here, Western Bigfoot Exploration. We got Mr. Kevin Morrison. I hope Tate H is here too. Well, if you say Tate's name 3 times in a row, it's like Beetlejuice. He might show up. So careful what you wish for. Who else? Hey, oh my goodness, he is in the chat. Tate, you cool guy. Hello, on the road currently to Florida. Oh, Tate's great. And we got my friend Greg. Hello from all.the.weird on Instagram. Good dude. Well, hope you all are starting to enjoy your time as we get down into the holiday season. If holidays are your thing, if they're not, just I hope you got a chance to hang out too. And Can Squatch, hey, how's it going? So let's go ahead and bring on our guest here in a minute. Again, if you have any questions for our guest tonight, is Kipp Morrill. You've probably heard the name. He is, I think, 75 years in a row running Bigfooter of the Year. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat and we will get to those eventually. We're going to start out first. Me and Kipp will be chatting. Got a few questions to run by him about Bigfoot, and then we'll get to some audience participation as well. So let's go ahead and get Mr. Kipp Morrill on the screen. Hello, Kipp. How's it going?
Hey, good, Jeremiah. Good to be here. And yeah, it's pretty stoked to be here on a Friday night and hanging out with you guys.
For sure, man. For sure. I'm excited to meet you finally. You are one of those legends in the Bigfoot community. I mean, everyone is like, oh man, there's so many things I could say about like, it seems like you're a funny dude. And I love it. You've got quite the history too, which is pretty cool. Do you mind if we go a bit into what you used to do before you retired?
No, not at all.
Awesome. So you used to be, I believe, a federal wildland firefighter. Is that correct?
That's correct. Awesome. 31 years in the Wildland Fire Service, the last 8 of which I was the state aviation manager for the Bureau of Land Management, California, and then went ahead and took the same position as the state aviation manager in Oregon and Washington BLM. So when I retired, I was the what we would call the SAM, the state aviation manager for Oregon and Washington. So
wow, that's huge for both states. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, no, it was a great job. Loved it. Didn't leave because of anything about the job that I didn't like. Of course, I got to do a lot of travel. I fought fire in Australia, Hawaii, Alaska, all over the Western United States. Wow. I did an IMT assignment, interagency incident management team. I'm sorry, an assignment to Saipan not too long ago. So I've gotten to do some amazing things. It's been an amazing career. But I'm 53. The position, the job affords me an opportunity to retire a little earlier because of the fire retirement. And quite frankly, I was watching people around me that were passing away suddenly. That were good friends. And so, I would have been mandatory out at 57. But as I've told people, the retire at 57, die at 60 model, that's just not me. So, so as I mentioned earlier, I live full time in an RV. My wife and I are both retired, just us and our little dogs. And we're planning to travel. And the question we always get with that is, well, how long do you want to do that for? And I said, I don't know. They go, well, you're so young. What are you going to do when you retire? I said, I don't know, probably drink more and look for Bigfoot more and
have fun. Yeah. Why not?
So yeah, exactly. So,
oh man, what kind of dogs you got?
We've got a little Chihuahua Terrier mix and then a kind of a miniature Schnauzer. They're little guys. they're getting long in the tooth,
nice.
but so they like to hang out, and they're good little travelers, and you know, they're fantastic. You know, they are really what shows us what unconditional love is. You know, so
love it. I love it. Yeah, yeah, dogs and or kids will do that to you for sure. So
that's what I hear.
That's good. You're experiencing that for sure. I've heard from a few different places and that you view yourself as a Bigfoot enthusiast. Is that correct?
That would be accurate.
Okay.
I would think that I not that I don't think that people are researchers. I struggle with that definition. To me, you know, I think it's a little bit more of a tighter definition of to be known as a researcher. You know, there's definitely there are people that are probably more like me that are more enthusiastic about it. Okay. You know, I used to tell people, you know, my knowledge of Bigfoot is probably about like this, but my enthusiasm is like this.
I get it. I get it, dude. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, what was it that that drew you? Of course, the question that always comes up at the beginning: what kind of drew you into like, oh, this Bigfoot thing is cool, or was there a certain age that really popped off? Like, what's the story behind that?
So I was about 7 years old growing up in Rving, California. And I remember going to the Rving bookstore with my mom.
Okay.
And buying the John Green booklet books on the track of the Sasquatch, Year of the Sasquatch, those. And in fact, I still have, I think, one of those with my little handwriting in it with my name. And but, you know, it was something that just really intrigued me. It scared me. It intrigued me, you know, knowing that there was something that could be living in the wilds, you know, not too far from where I was living. So it was really interesting to me. Fast forward to about 2012 and the internet, and you know, where all of a sudden, you know, there was all this opportunity to be connected with other people that have the same interest. What I found is that, like most hobbies, you either have all the time in the world and no money to pursue it, or all the money in the world and no time to pursue it. And
so funny. Yeah.
So what I'm finding is that in my retirement, my hope is that, you know, those two things will intersect at some point. And, you know, I do have the time, and I do have the, you know, the financial ability to do it.
Yep.
And so, so I'm looking forward to spending some more time out in the field, obviously when summer and it gets here. So yeah. So, but I've been interested ever since. And I was very, very fortunate when I did want to get into Bigfooting and Sasquatching. You know, I was able to meet people like Barcatino, and one of the first Bigfoot expeditions I was invited to was to go up and help reenact his thermal footage. So there I was, you know, brand new to Bigfooting, and I met Bart and Rob Leiderman and just a ton of different people, Wally Hersom. So it was incredible, an opportunity. And I didn't have to pay the $500 to go on a BFRO expedition. So that kind of opened the door. And if
somewhere right now, Matt Moneymaker's like, wait, what a minute. We didn't get Kipp's money. Come on.
What's that guy's name again? The Bigfoot of the Year guy?
I appreciate Matt. Someday I want to talk to Matt. But yeah.
So I had a great opportunity and met some really amazing people. And I mean, I was just thinking tonight of all the people that I've met in Bigfooting, and just great people. You know, I mean, you know, aside from, you know, a few others like Todd Hale, you know, otherwise they're usually really nice people.
Gotcha.
That was a joke.
I was like, I don't know. This went south. No, you're very like straight man in that. I was impressed. So let's rewind a little bit. So you grew up in Rving, which is like 3 hours away from Bluff Creek, right?
Yes.
Give or take around there. So same area. Trinity, is it Trinity Forest area ish?
So it's the Shasta Trinity National Forest,
Okay,
and then
okay.
you have the Six Rivers National Forest, which
Gotcha.
we in fire call it the Six Cricks, and then of course the Klamath National Forest as well. So it's kind of in that area. In fact, I have a picture. I've got to find it. A picture with my father and I standing in front of that carved Bigfoot statue in Willow Creek.
The Oma statue.
The Oma statue.
The super old Oma statue. Yeah, that's so cool, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
refresh my memory, but I can't. I'm trying to think of the gentleman who carved it. Jim McLaren, who lives down in South America. But yeah, I have a picture of myself as a little tiny kid. So, you know, and I remember driving through and kind of keeping my eyes peeled because you just never know, right? So
for sure. And do you mind if I ask what kind of what time frame was that when you were around that age? Was it I'm not gonna
77, 76, 77?
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Mid 70s.
So do you remember hearing about the Patterson Gimlin film when you were younger then, or did you have an intersection with that? Yeah. How was that? What was that like?
Just knowing, I think that, you know, initially as a small child, seeing that video and not having an opinion whether it's fake or this or that, you know, I'm looking at it like, that's the real thing. And, you know, just feeling the hair stand up on the back of your neck or your arms as you watch that, and just, again, just absolutely intrigued with the fact that there's something out there that, you know, that's still a mystery. Yeah. You know, and I'd have to say that that's 99% of the fun of it, right?
Oh yeah, for real. It's and that's before, you know, thinking of it now, it's like you live in a world where you can supposedly look up all the information in a device you hold in your hand, and to think that yes, there is something still out there that mankind has to discover or can discover or doesn't know everything about it yet. I think that's very intriguing to us as a society today, or it is to me. I guess I can speak for society, but whatever. Jonathan says this is a long Tito's commercial. Hey, I wanted to call that out. Good to see you, buddy. Let's sprinkle in a few audience questions that I got earlier real quick. So Tate says, what does it take to win Bigfooter of the Year? What do you think?
Well, if I told people, then it wouldn't be a secret anymore,
and you
right?
would never get it again. So it's a secret, Tate. Sorry, you're gonna have to figure that out for yourself.
How I guess I don't want to be too crude, but I would tell Tate that knowing where to shit in the woods, it's a good help.
I get it. Okay, funny. Yeah, I've heard it. Let's see. Oh, yes. My friend Jonathan Dodd, he wants to know, what is your biggest Bigfoot research influence?
Wow. You know, I would have to say it kind of goes with several people. Probably, without a doubt, Bart Catino is probably my number one. If you've never met Bart, he's incredibly passionate. He's incredibly intelligent. And by the way, he's a hell of a cook. He's a chef. So, but that's real? All, you know, for real. His family owns a restaurant, a famous restaurant in Monterey called the Sardine Factory. And so when my birthday several times in the Redwoods with Bart, he's made me his famous vodka pasta sauce, and just, I'm telling you, it's amazing. Wow. It's one thing to eat amazing pasta sauce. It's another thing to eat it at 2:00 in the morning in the Redwoods over a campfire. So, so I'd have to say Bart is probably a big influence. I would probably say Kirk Brandenburg. A lot of people don't know a lot about Kirk, but he's incredible, intelligent, smart, fun to be out in the woods with. He's not one of those people that's on Facebook all the time, but Kirk is definitely. And I guess I can say this here, I'm a huge Derek Randall's fanboy. So
Who isn't though? Right?
No, right? I mean, anybody can wear shorts like that and look that good. No,
Man.
but those folks, of course, my own friends with the Bluff Creek Project, Rowdy Kelly, Robert Leiterman is a huge influence. Robert is just an
Such
amazing
a nice guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Stephen, some guy named Hieronymus, the nephew of, he's inspiring to me
I know.
too.
You gotta watch out for that guy, because
right.
if he's related, we got issues. So. Tate is such a nice guy. He's very cool.
But certainly, I'm always inspired by what the Olympic Project folks are doing. It's, to me, and I obviously I'm biased, but I'm going to say that the Bluff Creek Project and the Olympic Project are truly conducting what I would term research.
They are.
And looking at looking at that scientific method of the hypothesis and the null hypothesis. I mean, there's some real work being done there. So.
For sure.
Definitely inspired by those folks. I probably left out a ton of people. Shelley Covington, Montana is just. I love Shelley.
Down in Texas, right?
She's just just totally. She's dialed. Amy Boo, she's just amazing. There's I could go down. Coming into Nevada today, I was thinking of Shannon LeGros. So.
Oh yeah, Shannon is great. She's really fun to talk to.
You come into Nevada and it says, Shannon LeGros lives here. Don't be a douche.
It is.
Leave the state better than you found it. So I'm like, okay,
right, exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Tate says no relation to Bob. Well, we'll see, buddy.
Yeah, that's what he says.
That's what he says. So, yeah, don't get him riled up. So let's talk about actually. So one big thing that comes up when you hear the name Kipp Morrill is you already kind of alluded to it, the thermal footage recreation in the Sierras. So kind of, let's say this isn't exactly a Bigfoot only podcast. Like, it is technically a cryptozoology themed podcast. So there could be people listening to this that are not like, know all the Bigfoot stuff. So can you walk us through, like, why was the BART thermal footage, why was that such a big deal?
Well, so, obviously it was completely by accident. They just happened to be in the area. They were researching an area where, I don't know, you're familiar with the Justin Smea Bigfoot shooting. That whole thing, shot a Bigfoot. So Justin was up there at the time. Todd Hale was there. Todd was actually there when it happened. He and Rose Sahibi and some other people. So, Bart and Son Oryavong, who was, I'm trying to think of his page. Anyways, they went for a walk at 1 o'clock in the morning, and Bart happened to. He's always got that therm in his hand, and he's out there until all hours. I mean, he is just dedicated. But he just happened to look down a particular sight path and saw what looked like. And if you've ever used a thermal, you'll see when something's warm out there, it pops, and it's like white hot, and it's like, oh wow. So immediately he saw with Son, and I'm just trying to get through this quick to I don't want to take up your whole podcast talking about that. Bart would be a great guest though someday.
He's on the list, which is like 30 people long. So don't worry. Someday I will definitely talk to Bart if he's up for it. So
he's incredibly interesting, but he saw what looked like heat signatures. But at first he just thought it was Todd and Roe and those guys around the fire, but then realized that actually that was offset. And so basically after the recreation, and I got to take part in a huge part of that. And Bart will say, I'm not saying they were Bigfoot, but what I am saying is there were 2 to 3 bipedal subjects in camp that night. The smallest was around 6.5 to 7 feet tall. The other was 7.5 to 8 feet tall. They weren't wearing clothing. And so, that's what he'll say. He'll say, I'm not saying they're Bigfoot, but, there's some big naked people running around, and they weren't from our camp, you know.
I'm going to
so
say if they're not Bigfoot, then I really don't want to know what the other options are, you know, like that's pretty crazy. Like,
and it's
wow.
really interesting, you know, and I think this kind of goes to show you, everybody on the internet has an opinion, whether it's about, and a lot of, oftentimes it's half-cocked opinions based on not getting the full story, or and just running with bits and pieces of it. And a great example would be, you know, these nest sites that the Olympic Project are looking at. They're not saying that they're Bigfoot nests. They're saying that it's very intriguing and it's very interesting, and they're researching. I mean, they're truly researching it. But every time you turn around on the internet, somebody's going, "Oh, those aren't Bigfoot nests. What do those guys know? That's a," you know, and the same thing with Bart's thermal footage. Well, that's just those guys around the campfire. You know, they were just right there. And it's like, were you there? I was there. I've seen it.
Right.
You know, yeah. It's like, I've actually researched it. Have you taken the time to see the you know, the what am I trying to say? The actual footage, and look at the recreation and actually see the site pattern and see. It's like, but unfortunately, those people get a lot of attention, and they go off half cocked, which leads to just a lot of misinformation.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep. Let's call it out. I was just about to say, Kevin Morrison says keyboard warriors. 100%, my dude. Totally.
Bam.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. And it's like, yeah, you think they know all the info, and they just like type and whatever, you know. It's like, man, Olympic Project. I love those guys. Like, I could go off about that whole, I could just go off. We're not going to do that today, but it's like, I really appreciate what they're doing up there. And Seth's documentary was solid, and so was Alex and Eli's as well, to go along with that. But
one thing that disappointed me about that, I was really hoping that they were going to show Shane Corson doing some karaoke. It didn't happen. But, you know, guy has an amazing voice, even with a slight Scottish accent.
I think that probably makes it even the more better. Who knows? But
it does.
So I'm gonna ask you a straightforward question here. In your opinion, and I get all opinions on this show, what is Bigfoot to you? How do you explain what it is? Because we know that can go a lot of different ways.
Well, I will say that I do believe it's a flesh and blood creature.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that. And I will say that we don't know what we don't know. And you and I spoke about this a little bit before we came on, talking about the fact that it's mystery. There's a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of things that we don't know about the universe. You know, humankind is an arrogant species. We think we know it all, right? Yeah, we got iPhones, right? We got to know it all. But the bottom line is, and this is alluding to the fact that I can't completely discount, I don't want to say woo, but I don't know. We don't know until we have an actual physical biological specimen on a slab. No one's going to know, for sure. So I'm on the fence on the one, and I think that the other thing too is, and I'm kind of sidestepping that question just a little bit, but the thing is that when it comes to a sighting for somebody, or an experience for somebody, you know, that's incredibly personal. And so, you know, for me to tell somebody, well, you didn't experience that. You're
crazy.
You know, like I always tell people, I said, Bigfoot people aren't crazy. The leprechaun people are crazy. But no,
I just lost all my leprechaun viewers. Thanks.
I know, right? Sorry. But crazy in a good way.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
But it's just it's interesting. You know, there's such it's like very political, right? So it's like the Trump and anti-Trump people, the it's the spiritual Bigfoot people, and then there's the physical Bigfoot people. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. And the bottom line is, none of us really know what we're talking about. We're all trying. That's why we're in the mystery, right? So.
Yeah, we all look a little crazy to the person way outside that's like, wait, what? You guys believe in Bigfoot?
Outside of this community, like in my fire community, I get that all the time. I was on a national preparedness review.
Oh, really?
I was in Grand Junction, Colorado, and our national ops specialist is standing there, and my friend, who happened to be one of the fire management officers there in Grand Junction. I came out after interviewing somebody for the review, and he's standing there with all these, big wigs from DC. Okay. And he looks at me and goes, "So, you find Bigfoot yet?" I'm like, here we go. Well, that cat's out of the bag, so here we go.
Yeah, but then the other thing is, sure, you have that, but then you have the people that circle around to you later, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, you're the Bigfoot guy, right? Like, let me tell you about this. Like, that's happened to me at my own work,
So I had, I was with a biologist. This would have been several years ago. I was basically an agency rep on a fire, and I usually I bridge the subject by going, well, so I got this hobby, and I go, "Oh, really?" You go, "Yeah, I'm an avid Bigfoot enthusiast." "Oh, really?" And I either get, which I've gotten many times, like, "Oh, I totally believe that," or I get the,
see you later.
Either one of those. Right. But I do open myself up to it. I don't mind. I don't think I'm crazy. At least I think so. But this particular biologist, it led to about 6 months down the road, I got a phone call from another biologist on a national forest who said, "Hey, I heard you're the Bigfoot guy. And we just had this guy come in and reported this sighting." So long story short, this gentleman was up in the Golden Trout Wilderness camping, fishing trip, had to get out of the tent to go relieve himself one night. I think he was like a retired CHP officer or something.
Okay.
But in the moonlight, in this rock strewn area that was just all the way down to this lake, which was difficult walking, he said he watched this thing just glide down to the lake.
Wow.
He said it wasn't like, like the reports of like the big, 4 foot, wide chest and this and that. He said it reminded him more of like a NBA player, a very, very tall, lanky NBA player. And he said he felt as though it was an honor and a privilege to have the experience, and that he wanted to report it because if they're real, he wanted to make sure that people know that they're there and that they should be protected. So it was kind of
really cool.
Yeah,
that is cool. Have you ever had any sightings or encounters yourself personally?
I've had things that I can't say were Bigfoot, but I can say that I don't know what they were, and so that they're intriguing to me. Things that I think back. My wife and I were in my pickup truck up above Coos Bay, Oregon, headed to a place called the Bomb Trail, or the bomb site. In World War II, the Japanese launched some aircraft that they put together in submarines and tried to drop incendiary bombs on
really
to the West Coast. Yeah,
that's wild, dude. Oh man.
So it was the site up there that we were kind of go visit, and so on the way back, something screamed at us. And it was kind of one of those things where we're going slow enough, but I looked at her and did you hear that? And she said, yeah. And she's a biologist, a wildlife biologist by trade. So she knows what an elk sounds like. She knows what all these different things sound like. And it didn't sound like that. I just remember the hair standing up on the back of my neck, because it was like, it was starting, like the wheels were turning inside your brain. Like, am I hearing that? And it was just something that really, really strongly projected. It scared me. So, and then one other time, I was in actually at Louse Camp, and it was Daniel Perez and I. We were the only ones there. We were waiting for people. This would have been October. We were trying to get down to the actual film site in late October 2018, something like that. And I had my big fancy silver tent set up. I was way in the back of Louse Camp, kind of where Robert Leiterman usually camps, but he wasn't there. And so I had my tent set up, and then Daniel was way up in the front area.
Okay.
And anyways, at some point, I was awakened because it sounded like something had taken and just popped the top of my tent.
Oh,
and
man.
It scared me. I was in a dead sleep,
Yeah.
and so I immediately sat up and I said, "Hey," and I listened and I didn't hear anything. And then in the morning, I woke up thinking, it's probably a stick fell. I'll just find some,
sure.
That's usually Occam's razor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there wasn't any. And so it either something slapped my tent in the middle of the night, or somehow I dreamed it. I can't say with certainty that it did happen, but I can't say with certainty that it didn't happen. So those were two things that kind of come to mind. And nothing like, wow, I saw one step out from behind a tree, and it's like, no, I've had some times where it's just that feeling of it just doesn't feel right. So, but that's about it. But I will say this, that I always tell people, I try and get out when I can, but you have a 100% chance, more of a chance of having an experience or finding evidence if you're actually outside in the woods.
No, really?
No, yeah.
So I can't just be on Facebook and find Bigfoot
and check
evidence?
This out.
This is wild.
Right? I know, huh? Every living adult in the world either believes in Bigfoot or they don't.
No, I'm throwing my computer across the room right now. This is crazy. Wow. All of you, you should be writing this down because this is awesome. You all should be hitting subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much. What do you feel is the squatchiest place on Earth?
Oh, man. I'm going to be pretty biased, but, I definitely think I can't say it's kind of a secretive spot. It's not secret, but
if you want to say regional, that's fine too. I don't want you to give away any super Kipp spots, but
no, Barter and Bobo would kill me. But what I will say is that it's a place that they've gone, and Bart and I have gone, and it's in the Redwood region, and that place is amazing in that even walking into during the daytime into that area, I get the creeps. So, but even though I haven't spent much time there, you can't get any squatchier than the Olympics. That place is just
for sure, right? Yeah,
the Hoh rainforest. I didn't see any hoes there, but
for show though.
For show, no hoes at the Hoh forest.
Oh, this episode is big ready explicit. It's party time. Sorry, kids, if you're listening to this.
But yeah, I mean that place is just get a very interesting vibe. I mean, it's just it's a rainforest. It's dark. It just has all those components, and then the Olympic Project folks. I mean, they're finding stuff left and right, but. There's also a lot of places I just never been. I don't know if you've ever heard when Kirk and I were together and we recorded that sound in
it's being called out in the chat right now, actually.
Okay.
Chris Spencer wants you to he's like, hey, talk about that.
And where's Chris? Is Chris out there?
Well, let's check it out. Chris says, hey, what about the vocals you and Kirk heard, Kipp?
Yeah, well, no, that's and thanks for reminding me. And by the way, Chris and his lovely friend Rving K, his girlfriend, Ms. Slick, are also two very good, close personal friends of mine who I absolutely adore and have an enormous amount of respect for. But yeah, thanks, Chris. That's a great point. So Kirk and I, we were in Morton, and there were 3 different camps, and Todd was there. Todd was actually in with, I think maybe with Chris. I can't remember.
For listeners, you're saying Todd Hale and Kirk
Brandenburg and I, but Chris Spencer was there, and Rebecca and Todd and I mean, there's just quite a variety of people.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it was probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was camping over at the, I guess you could call it the main campsite, and there were 2 other spots. There was Camp 6 and Hilltop. Well, Kirk and I were going to get ready to come into Hilltop Camp, so I got on the radio and I just said, "Hey, this is Kipp. Kirk and I are coming into Hilltop. You know, just a heads up." And immediately somebody came back, and I don't remember who it was. And they said, "Negative, stand down. We're getting trees being pushed over and a lot of that type of activity going on." And so, you know, I'm thinking, wow, okay. So Kirk and I decide, okay, we're not going there. We'll walk up the road towards where the entrance to what we were calling Camp 6. So we start walking, and then all of a sudden, and if you could hear it, and it's out there somewhere, I could share it somehow, or you could get it, or maybe Chris could share it or something. But in essence, what it sounded like was, oh, kind of this kind of sing-song thing, right?
Okay.
And the thing was, you know, my little reptilian brain, part of my brain, the first thing that came to mind for me was, what the hell are those guys doing? They just told us not to come up there, and now they're yelling.
Oh,
so
yeah, sure.
So it wasn't like, oh, that sounded like a coyote, or that sounded like a whatever. Literally my first reptilian brain thought was, what are those guys? What a bunch of knuckleheads. Why are they doing that? You know?
Right.
And then, but to hear it, it's pretty intriguing. And I believe Shane, or Todd or Chris, somebody was telling me there's a similar vocalization that they've heard over on the Olympic Peninsula as well. So,
wow.
But yeah, so, but you got to hear it. It's pretty interesting. And what you'll hear, Kirk will say, "That wasn't an owl." And that's like, yeah, I didn't think so, bro. I did not think so.
There's something on the hill.
Yeah, and it's not an owl.
Right, exactly. So I'm gonna get back to the audience questions in a bit, because there are some good ones in there for sure. But I'm curious, what's your top evidence for Bigfoot? Do you have a favorite? And this can be historical, this can be personal. I leave it way open to interpretation.
Well, you know, it would probably be pretty cliche to say, oh, the Patterson Gimlin film. But then again, you know, I have some bias because I was actually a part of the recreation with Bart's Thermal. I find that to be extremely intriguing. You know, and some of the, you know, it's interesting because we're starting to get into some other than just, you know, footage or other than just track footage or track evidence or some of these other things, you know, people like David Ellis and Chris Spencer and those guys. I mean, that's just freaking cutting edge working on the audio side, which I think that could yield some things. Again, it's going to take a dead one. You know, it'd be great if one died of old age and we found it. Yeah, you know, that would be great.
But you're not going to find it because of decay in the woods.
That's right.
I mean, but that would be nice, though, right?
Well, it's those asshole leprechauns that keep dragging them off. That's why I don't like leprechauns. So,
oh my goodness.
Sorry.
So no, it's good. I don't care. Sir. I'm going to throw something out there, see if it lands. So the fact you were a firefighter, or pretty much you're fighting fires in the woods is the easy way to say that, right?
Yes.
More or less.
More or less.
There's always these stories that come out about, okay, there's these firefighters in the California fires and they saw Bigfoot or they found a track. Like, have you ever run into any stories like that? Or is that usually just some dudes like sitting around like blah, blah, blah? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
I've actually a good friend of mine. Again, when people find out that I have this interest,
Right.
but it was a good friend of mine. It was, I can't remember what year it was, but he was on a fire, I think somewhere in the Plumas National Forest, and there was a Native American crew from the Southwest.
Oh, wow.
Well, he was called as an EMT. He was called to the top of the fire because there was an injury. So he got to the top of the fire, and it was these two young Native American firefighters, and one had basically been knocked out. But what they said was that they were on the top of the fire and that they heard this noise, and that they looked up, and in this tree there was a monkey man, and the monkey man jumped down out of the tree and started running away. Well, the one firefighter was so scared, he ran directly into a tree and knocked himself out. And that was why my friend was called up on an injury.
That's wild.
Those kinds of stories, it seems rather intriguing. I've known some helipellers that have been out in the woods, and one of them was just telling me he had been a helirepeller. He's now in the air tanker world, but he had like a Sasquatch hat or something on, and I showed up at his base last summer. Yeah. I'm like, hey, you're a Bigfoot guy. And he goes, oh yeah. He said that he and another guy repelled this fire somewhere in Oregon, and that he said that he was sleeping one place, and his rappel partner was sleeping about 100 yards away. And he said something just kept walking around behind him, and
oh man,
shining his light back there, and it stopped. But he said it definitely sounded bipedal. Next morning, he and his rappel partner, they get over, get a fire going and get a little coffee. And he said, how did you sleep? He goes, this is the other guy. Slept like shit. He goes, I don't know what the hell that was. It was walking around last night. Oh, man. So, I think that there's a lot of those kinds of stories that you're going to hear. And that's probably the tip of the iceberg of the stories that you're not going to hear, because it's I don't want to seem crazy, and there's, that's unfortunately, that's the way things are. People won't share a lot because they're afraid of the ridicule. They're afraid it might injure them professionally. And, there'll be people that are telling me, like, people have told me, you don't have to tell everybody you're into Bigfoot. I'm like, I don't care. I'm good, man. That's fine. I'm crazy enough, but no, it could be, unfortunately, people view it as detrimental to their career, detrimental to them. And
some people do.
I think you're that's like the tip of the iceberg of things that you're hearing. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's some crazy stuff out there. That's like, people are waiting until their deathbed or whatever to tell someone, for sure. What would you do? Let's say if you're in the woods and you see a monkey man jump out of a tree, what are you going to do, Kipp? Like, what's your reaction to that?
I would like to think that I'd be like Quick Draw McGraw, and I'd have my iPhone out there, and I'd have the videos, I'd have the evidence, but we all know how that works. I think that people, they're often critical of, well, why didn't you? Well, and I was scared half to death, or I was shocked, or, sure. I would challenge people to go out and, get a picture of a bear that runs across the road, or get a picture of so I think that, I tell people that, that I can usually count on maybe a couple of my both hands, how many people that I would want to talk to if I had like a true encounter, a true experience. It's a very, very small number. But the absolute last place that I would talk about it or try and present the evidence would be on Facebook. So
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, that's a good answer. Friend Greg's who all the weird Instagram, also a Patreon supporter. Mark is too. I appreciate both of you. If there's others in the chat, I appreciate you as well, but these are the only ones that have asked questions from what I see. Greg says, hey, question, have you heard any accounts of aggressive Bigfoot?
Not really. And I got to give Greg a shout out. I don't see too many Morrills with the same last name with it spelled
for sure.
the same
last name.
I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. So, and Greg, I don't know if you knew this, but there is a Morrill County, Nebraska, Morrill, Nebraska, with the spelling of our last name. It's kind of interesting, but I digress. I realize. But you know, the aggressive accounts, I haven't, not really. You know, I would say that my belief is that they aren't all harmonious, peace, love, and plain yogurt, you know, creatures, you know, but I would think that they're just like any other creature, and that there's some that are probably fairly curious and gentle, and then there's some real assholes.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, like, just let's look at people. There's nice people, and then there's you don't.
I'm a nice guy, but I've had some.
You're the nice.
I've had some cranky times, you know. So maybe you know, you catch them at the wrong time. It's like, hey, I'm out here, I'm trying to fish, or I'm trying to like, and all of a sudden I'm interrupted. I do find it interesting listening to some of the different podcasts about these encounters that these hunters have had, and particularly it seems like in the East Texas, the Big Thicket sounds like the place where if you really want to see something that's aggressive, go there and then point your gun at them. So I've always
that's
found
weird,
that
right?
Really yeah, it's like, you know, Mike Woolley, his account, which is incredible. You know, as soon as he pulls that gun out, even to just take a look, it's like they seem to know what that is, and then it's like it's on. Yeah. So kind of interesting.
Tate says,
is Mark Marcel is out there too?
Yeah, he's out here. Is Westport Aquarium. Tate
cool.
says there's nice people, then there's Kipp Morrill. Well, I think he's cool. I'm sure you think he's cool too, Tate. But I have, so I'm gonna say a few topics, and then if you have any reactions or like quick statements about them, I'd be curious. I like to ask people about stuff they don't usually get asked about. So it might be non-Bigfoot stuff. We'll see in here. Bluff Creek Project.
You know, amazingly interesting, dedicated people. And I think that there's so much history. If you ever have the opportunity to go to the Humboldt State Library and look at the, what's his collection?
The Bigfoot room.
Yeah,
the Bigfoot room, right? Yeah,
but
everyone
you know,
talks about that.
There's so much history, and I think it was Cliff I was talking to, a couple of months ago, about Bigfoot history and about how people in Bigfooting in the past have absolutely sucked at it, and it's made, you know, but there's so much history there, you know, like with Mark and all of his Ape Canyon work. It's like, you know, it's like bringing out the facts, bringing out all that history, bringing out all that information. And there's so much that can be learned by, you know, rediscovering the film site. And if you haven't bought your Robert Leiterman book,
get on it, dude.
Get on it. It's and I'm totally biased, but he did an amazing job on that. But again, it's, you know, there's a lot of information that is still left to be gathered. You know, and there's still more work that needs to be done down there. But it's like I said, it's an incredibly interesting group. And you know, a shout out. He's not on Facebook much, but one of our Bluff Creek members, Dustin Sievers, he's looking not at just the film site. He's looking at all the players that have things to do. That's kind of been his focus. And so it's been this really interesting intersection of different thoughts and processes and ideas of how to utilize, you know, some of that history to move forward and document. So
Olympic Project.
Oh man, gold standard. For sure. You know, they're just you know, if you've ever met those people, you know, Derek, Todd, Shane, you know, I'm probably leaving a bunch of people out, but the thing I'm always impressed with, these are just really, really good people and smart people. And if you talk to like somebody like Derek or Shane or even Todd, it's like the thing that I really appreciate about them is the fact that, you know, there's family way up here. And then there's that Bigfooting thing that's like way down here. You know, the priority is the thing with that group is there's not a lot of ego there. There's a lot of hard work. Yep. There's just a lot of, I guess it would be like the old time detective, that just does the hard work, right? Just grinds it out.
Exactly.
And that's the Olympic project.
All right. Finding Bigfoot
brought the subject to the masses.
Yeah.
And so, I think that it probably led to more information, led to more people being curious and interested. But it's funny, literally like 9 out of 10 people that I'll talk to, I'll say, have you ever seen the TV show Finding Bigfoot? They're like, no. So
me too.
It's very niche-y, right?
Yeah.
So, but for the people that it did reach, I do believe that it did something in that it was it just brought the subject out of the shadows, more or less. So, and again, I don't really know Renee very well. I've only met Matt once or twice, but you got your Cliff and your Bobo types, and they're into it. This is
for sure.
That's not just like something they do on TV. It's like they're down with it. So
it's for real.
And if you know that, I think that makes the show even more interesting, because it's like, okay, these guys they're not just acting; they're really into it. So,
all right, here comes some weird stuff. Ready? All right, Dog Man.
I'm out there. I'm not sure. Again, people have very personal experiences, and I don't want to discount that. It's a tough one. I think that maybe it's misidentification, and it could be maybe Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I don't know. I got a hard time with that one. So but again, it's like, here I am, a Bigfoot person calling Dogman people crazy. It's like, yeah, okay. All right, dude.
Well, it's really funny because sometimes you talk to Bigfoot people about weird stuff and stuff comes out that you've never heard. So you never know. Right. That happened in my Dr. Meldrum episode. So if you listen to that, if you haven't, listeners,
I will.
It's good. Mothman.
Again, it's a tough one. People have had experiences, and I think there's a lot of things that we don't know. We just don't know what we don't know. Do you believe in angels, or do you believe in God? I'm a Christian, and I believe in those things. And so I don't know, maybe it was an angel or a satanic something or other.
Weird.
Yeah.
A weird twist on it that I haven't heard a lot of. 2 more in UFOs. Yes or no?
Well, I got an interesting experience with that. I lived in Orland, California. This would have been probably about 6 or 7 years ago. My wife and I were sitting in our hot tub, and it was a completely moonless night, dark can be. And I'm looking in the hot tub, and I'm looking to the north. And what got my attention was the stars were being blotted out. And so I was like, So I asked my wife, I said, hey, do you see what I'm looking at? And so she turns around with her back to the north and says, yeah. And what happened was, it was a triangular shaped craft.
Wow. Really?
And it was passing from north to south, and it came right over the top of us, completely silent, no lights, no anything. And there was one street light on that was on our street, and it was low enough that it illuminated just a little bit of the bottom of that craft as it went by. So what I think it was probably something that we just don't know anything about yet.
Oh, totally. Totally. Yeah.
But when it comes to aliens, UFOs, those types of things, it would be extremely arrogant for us to think that we're the only intelligent life on the planet, or, unintelligent life. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I get you.
So I think that it's highly possible that, I would think, I say it's highly probable that there are things that we just don't know about that are out there. So
I agree. Last weird topic one. Jess, I have a feeling it might hit something. Clackamas Sasquatchians. Is that anything?
oh
You know
wow,
what I'm talking about, though, right? Have
I
you ever heard of those
do.
guys?
I
Yeah.
have.
Okay.
And I actually have a one of the books, the Oregon Bigfoot Highway,
It's a really
and
good book. Yeah.
so yeah, so it's an interesting group. Unfortunately, some of the older members. I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name that Cliff
One
passed
of them
away.
did. Yeah. One of them did pass away.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I mentioned Beachfoot. Joe Beelart is just, gosh, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Yeah. Just amazing. Has so much knowledge. Just a super nice guy. But they have Tom Powell, and you want to talk about spiritual Bigfoot stuff? Have a couple of beers with Tom Powell. He's a cool dude.
Yep.
But he'll bend your ear a little bit, and he's got some. If you've read any of his books, Shady Neighbors, I think was that. Is that?
Oh boy. This is terrible. It's Nate. Oh, this is terrible. Everyone in the chat is like, "You guys are losers."
Like what?
So someone in the chat say what the book is. It's like, is it just the neighbors? Oh, this is terrible. All our Bigfoot cars are being ripped in half right now. Yeah, it's fine.
Mark says one cannot have a couple of beers with Tom. No, kidding. All right. I had like a party ball thing. The first Bigfoot conference thing I went to was in Tri-Cities, and it was the Primal Peoples Conference, and it was like Primal 2012.
Peoples. Ooh, I've never heard that one.
It was cool, but I had like this party ball thing that was like, it was gonna go to waste, right? So I told Tom Powell, I'm like, hey Tom, I'm like, it's kind of warm. It's not all that cold, but I don't want to see it go to waste. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll take it. So the next thing you know, it's like the last day of the conference, and it's like an afternoon or something.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, and then Tom he nudges me, he goes, gives me one of these and points at the beer. I'm like, all right. So dude.
We are at an hour. Just want to check in and make sure that are you good for chatting some more? Or usually
I'm retired, man. I got nothing but time.
Oh, that's true. You're like, forget this. All right. So I got a really good question from Jonathan Easley. We both talked earlier about how awesome he is. Question for Kipp: what about the PG film makes you think it's real? That is a solid question.
The one thing that makes me feel that it's real is that if you're going to fake something like that, who in their right mind goes with a female subject to try and duplicate breasts? And I'm like, really? So for me, that's the one thing that really points. And a lot of people would be like, that doesn't seem too weird to me. But it's like, my question would be, really? If you're going to fake something, why would you make it harder than it has to be?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Get Tate's uncle, put some football pads and throw a suit on him and send him out there, right? So, but yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, why would you put boobs on it and try and fake it? It's just, to me, that screams,
it doesn't make sense.
That is something, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a solid answer for sure. Friend Alex is hanging out in here. Sasquatch, the shadows. If you're not watching that, you should. I'm sure everyone is. Favorite experience at Bluff Creek? I know you talked about a few earlier, but if there's one that stands out, what do you think?
This is from probably what people want to hear, but probably my favorite experience at Bluff Creek is literally sitting around a campfire late at night at Louse Camp, knowing the history, knowing that, that people like John Green and Renee DeHinden and those types of people happen to be like right there. And then talking about some Bigfooting history. It's like, the saying, if trees could talk, to to me,
True.
that's a favorite experience. And then another favorite experience is, we had Mike Mraz passed away from COVID, and we happened to just meet Mike and his buddy at Louse Camp, and they just happened to have all these letters of memorabilia from Renee DeHinden. Wow. And so sitting around at the picnic table, reading letters from Renee DeHinden, talking about, other Bigfooters, talking about the fact that, what did he say? He said, somebody was just as crazy. I think somebody left the gate open at the funny farm.
I think I've heard that before. Yeah, it's a good quote. It's a good quote.
But it's total, it's total Renee, right? It's like, if you, I never met Renee. I've seen him on commercials and seen, he's it's obviously,
beer commercials.
He's been, famous enough that they, tried to mimic him, in Harry and the Hendersons, so,
yep.
But you could it's just funny seeing some of that personality captured back when, letter writing was an art, right? People actually wrote letters. They didn't type, they didn't text, so, it's pretty interesting to me.
My favorite Renee thing is the video that's on the Sasquatch archives where it's like Perez is doing the presentation about how the PG film is fake and Renee just freaks out. It's like so good. Oh man, right. If I could travel back in time, what a time to travel to. Could you imagine?
Oh my God.
Great. It was funny talking to Perez or Daniel about that. It was good stuff.
Daniel's he's a
good dude.
He is a good dude. He's got a lot of he's one of the old timers.
That's the scary thing, dude, is because he started early too, but now he's one of the old timers, and then like Cliff and Bobo are not too young anymore.
No,
and I'm not too young anymore, but it's what I mean. And
absolutely,
you still have a long ways to go, but you're good. So
I'm young at heart. I'm immature. That's what keeps me young.
Do you have a pretty solid Bigfoot book collection, or?
I had a fair collection. I think I have some in storage, but when you sell your sticks and bricks house and you get rid of almost everything, and you're down to just a few things. I do have the new Bluff Creek book. I have the Oregon Bigfoot Highway. Love that.
Good book.
One of my favorites is Raincoat Sasquatch by Dr. Robert Alley.
Yep.
So, I've got a couple of those are definitely my kind of go-tos.
That is solid. I need to read Raincoat Sasquatch. That is one I have not read yet, so I'm hoping to read that soon.
Are you familiar with the old podcast Bigfoot Tonight with there were two gentlemen, one passed away sadly, but there's some really good interviews with Dr. Robert Alley, and he talks about Raincoat Sasquatch, and he talks about those different experiences that he writes about, and I've listened to it several times.
I'll have to check it out.
Pretty cool.
Is it one of those was it like Blog Talk Radio back in the day? It's one of those? Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff from
Stacy Hostetler and I can't remember the other individual, but they had a great show back in the day. So nothing like yours.
Kipp, you old rascal. Thank you. Do you have any advice for, let's say, the next generation of Bigfooters? And I'm talking 25 and under. So like really next gen, right? I think that's next gen.
I would say my advice would be get to know and pick the brains of the older experienced group, but don't get bogged down by that. In other words, keep your mind open, look for other things to be, just like the all the sound evidence that's being looked at now. 20 years ago, that wasn't really, it's like, we don't, but being able to analyze that. So I would say, be curious, try and get out in the woods as much as you can. Be curious, keep your mind open. Again, not to say that I'm a spiritual Bigfooter or I'm a, but but keep your mind open. You know, there's a lot of interesting things that could be gleaned out there. So, and I guess that the only other thing that I would try and pass along to me, have fun. That's why I'm involved in this whole thing. Is it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, the people, the friendships that I've been able to make. I mean, that's awesome. And you know, for me, if I get to go camping and I get to hang out with people that I enjoy the company of, and then, oh, by the way, there's this Bigfoot thing. That's kind of, to me, that's the bonus. But certainly the relationships, the friendships, the experiences, the hanging out, the doing the night walks or hanging around the campfire and listening and talking and you know, to me, and I guess one other thing, and it's something I try and live by. There are many things in my life that I take very, very, very serious.
Okay.
My career I took very serious.
Sure.
You know, my life, you know, things like that. But I just don't take myself too serious. That's why that's how I have so much fun. I just, you know, there's so many things to get worked up and stressed out about in life, and it's like life's too short.
Yeah,
have fun. You know,
you find that you realize that as for me, and I'm okay. I'm almost 40. I'm like 37, right?
what?
But it's like health issues are starting to kick in. And it's like, then you realize you cannot take life serious anymore, because it's like, you just got to have fun, because once you start taking maintenance medication, you're like, I don't have forever. So let's have a good
That's
time,
right.
You know how it is, but, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and I would say that, you know, these newer documentaries, like what Jonathan pulled out, and Tate, and
so
you know,
good.
Alec and Eli.
So
I mean,
good.
Amazing. And some of the things that it's like, I think it was Jonathan's. You know, they were back at Louse Camp, and they were like making a hamburger. You know, and I'm sitting there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I'm thinking. Man, see, that's what I like to do. I like to hang out with the bros, or the bros and the sisses, and hang out and have a good meal, and you know, certainly, you know, look for evidence and do all these different things. But again, it's the experience of being out with friends and being with people that you enjoy the company of.
For sure. And Jonathan says, if you get zero Squatch action, you still have one of the best times ever. That is the truth, right?
Absolutely.
I apologize, Facebook user. I do not know your name is, because you have to click the link, the StreamYard link, for me to know who you are. But the question is, Kipp, do you have any plans on your current traveling, RVing, to do some squatching? That's a good question.
Well, at this point, with the weather the way it is, I'm going to be probably a lot like birds. I'm going south for the winter. So, but at this point, what I hope to do this summer, I'd like to spend some extended time up on the Olympics. I'd like to spend some extended time up and around Bluff Creek. You know, now that I live in the fifth wheel that I live in it's built on an off-road chassis. It's built to be out for long periods of time. And my wife, being she's a nature journaler,
cool.
And she has her own business. It's called Pyrosketchology, talking about sketching for fire and those types of things.
All right.
So she's really into it, and as a biologist, she's really into being outside. And so our interests kind of connect, and Perfect. So it makes it easier to try and do some of those things. But you know, I hope to get to some remote places and just set up and hang out for 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
And does that mean that I'm going to go out and therm every night? No, I'm going to make myself interesting. Probably going to drink a lot of Tito's, and you know, but you know, just enjoy myself, and hopefully have lots of friends come and visit and sit around the campfire, and you know, so that's what I'm hoping to do.
That sounds like a good time for sure. Let's see. Mark has a question. Kind of silly, but I like it. When you're named as Bigfooter of the Year, when Lyle Blackburn in his video says Kipp Morrill 2021 Bigfooter of the Year, we know it's going to happen. How do you plan to use the crown to bring about world peace? You gotta let Mark know, I guess.
I think one of the first things I'd have to do is let people know that freedom exists without pants. So
you got to say that one more time, because it like cut out really in a weird part, and I was like, ugh.
Freedom exists without pants.
Okay, that's see.
So,
I was like, did he really say it? Yeah, he said it. Okay, cool.
and
Yeah,
kind of like the meme that you kind of like the meme that you put down that said, if you know, then you know. Yeah, that's kind of the same thing. If you know, then you know.
Exactly.
So, in all seriousness, there's some people that have done some amazing things out there this year, and Robert Leiderman in that book, that was a solid. And then the Olympic Project and looking at those nest sites and conducting that long-term research. There's some solids out there, so it'll be interesting to see who really walks away with that title.
It really will be. Yeah. And listeners of the podcast, if you're into Bigfoot and you're not subscribed to Daniel Perez's Bigfoot Times newsletter, what are you doing? You got to check that out. It's really good. It's the best $20 a year you'll ever spend.
Oh, it's awesome. And like he says, as Daniel says about his newsletter, if you don't get it, you just don't get it.
You just don't get it, dude. That's the thing. Can Squatch says, question, what kind of thermal do you use? I guess, or recommend could be.
Yeah. Well, so I was able to come into some cash when we sold our house, and so my wife.
I was like, am I gonna have to edit this?
So I actually bought a Pulsar. It's an I think it's the XP50. It's a monocular. It was right around $4,000, something like
Holy
that.
Mackerel, dude! Wow, nice.
I'm telling you, if you look at some of the FLIRs, like the older FLIRs that were trendy back then, you look through this and your mind's going to be like, wow. Like Todd, is Todd still on? If Todd's on, Todd will be the first to go. Oh yeah, he was pretty surprised with the quality.
Nice.
Oh yeah,
cool, good answer, good solid answer. So what I get from that is everyone sell their house and buy that thermal. Don't sell your house.
Research doesn't have to be expensive. I think that these are amazing things. I think it was it Cliff or I think it was Bobo mentioned once when FLIRs first came out, they were like, oh yeah, this will be solved in like 2 weeks. It's going to be done. And that was however many years ago. So, it's just like anything, there's people that can go out and fish and they've got all the fanciest gear and they've got, I got my $2,000, fly rod and I've got all this stuff and they show up out there and then the little kid with his little spin rod, catches this big
exactly.
So I wouldn't get wrapped around the spokes on some of those things. I would just go out there and observe and document and experience. And a lot of times it's not, I'll be the first to admit I'm selfish when it comes to going out. And if you're talking about research and those types of things, I'm into it for my own experience. I'm in it to have, and I shouldn't say I'm selfish in that sense. I mean, I'm there to help with camp and I'm there to, drive people or whatever it is, help with food or whatever it is. I'm not trying to say that I'm selfish that way, but what I'm saying is I'm selfish in the sense that, I'm there because I want to have an experience. I'm not there because I want to share it with everybody. Certainly, my close friends, I want to, if I have something happen and I want to be able to experience and share it, but I'm not out there to because I want to be Bigfooter of the year. It just happens. But it's just, I just want to have my own experience. And I always fall back to this though. I always tell people, I think I want to have an experience. I think I do, because I know a lot of people that have them wish that they hadn't. It can be a very life-changing experience.
Kipp. Yeah. So. I mean, who knows? Like, at the end of the day, it's like a huge apex predator creature. And I mean, it could be you actually see one that could be pretty wild. I mean, it would be pretty wild. It could be like, it would be very wild. And it's like, yeah, you don't know how as a human and your like, just your I'd say primitive brain kicks in and you're like fight or flight, like you freak out. I don't know how I would react, to be honest. It
Your own
would
mental
be,
health. The
yeah.
idea that you're seeing something that everybody tells you doesn't exist and that you're crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and yet you smelled it, you saw it, you were 10 feet away from it, you know what a bear looks like. And so, I would probably, I'm sure that there's a fair number of people that have had experiences and wish they never had because of
Oh yeah,
the
sure.
impact that it's had on their mental health, their friends, their family, their professional life. So I think that there's a lot of people that just wish that it didn't happen. So I always kind of
Mm-hmm.
preface it with, I'm out there, right? Obviously, I would want to have some sort of an encounter, an experience, and again, I think I do, but I also think that I'm probably more mentally prepared for something like that because I've been kind of interested in it for so long.
Makes
So,
sense.
but
Makes sense.
again, I think that the other thing is too that the important thing is that Occam's razor, a logical explanation for things. There are people that go out in the woods and everything is a Bigfoot. Oh my gosh, that barred owl, it's an ape, and I know it was this, and I know it was that, and I would always, basically, challenge people to be, put your skepticals on.
Yeah, exactly. Um, let's so we'll end with this question. Let's say that there are people listening and they're like, "Oh man, I've never had these awesome connections like Kipp has had, like going out to recreate thermal footage and stuff like that." Like, how would you recommend someone that's new to Bigfooting get involved with, like, what's a good way to get involved with the community that's a healthy way? What do you recommend?
Well, the most logical one and probably the most damaging one can be Facebook, but it's true, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just it's a great medium to be able to try and meet people and find people that have similar interests. I don't know much about Reddit and some of those, but
No,
certainly
don't.
connecting with people and looking for the opportunity to just come out and participate. You know, Try and if and when there's a group that's going to go out, ask, hey, would it be all right if I came out with you guys? And then I would say, be prepared to ask questions, be prepared to listen. There's a lot of people that we experience that come out into the woods that have no wilderness ethic, and it's not because they're bad people, it's because they just don't know. I've seen people, they take their garbage, they're like, oh, they're done with their sandwich, they take the wrapper and they throw it. I was like, whoa, hang on a second.
Oh, not good. Not good.
Pack it in, pack it out.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, that comes with being open-minded and asking questions and trying to contribute. Hey, I brought extra tortillas so I can help with breakfast. Or
That's awesome.
It just, be prepared to come out, listen, learn, have a good time, and contribute. How about that?
I love that. Yeah. Leave whatever pride you have at home. Make yourself a kind of a servant type person or you know what I mean, like to help others. Just be a good person. Yeah, I like that.
Totally. And have fun. And again, don't take yourself too serious. And just remember, there's two things that squatchers hate, and that's change and the way things are. Just remember that.
That's funny. Oh man, Kipp, has been really, really fun chatting with you tonight, and I am thankful for everyone hanging out with us. And there's been some really good questions in the chat. As we close out, if people are wanting to, do you have a presence people can?
Sorry, I had to do this for Lauren.
Oh, that's right. We got to get the Night Callers Bigfoot Radio hat on. I love it, dude. I love it. Go, Lauren. Are there ways that people can follow what you're doing, or you're pretty much not really have a huge social media presence? What would you say to that? Uh-oh. Okay, we're going to wait a second. I think we had a little glitch with the Wi-Fi. We're gonna give him a minute. Oh man. Uh-oh. Kipp, I don't know if you're there still. Oh boy. It was the hat. It totally was the hat. All right. Someone in the chat, let me know if you can hear me right now. I'm not sure if okay. Kipp had to drop. We're gonna give him a minute to see if he can jump back in. Yeah, he does kind of look like James Hetfield from Metallica. Oh no. Okay. Well, hold on all. So Kipp just this is funny. Kipp just messaged me. His computer shut down 100%. So we are going to call it a night, but it's been real fun chatting with Kipp. Thank you all for hanging out. Do me a favor if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future interviews with people in cryptozoology. And have a great rest of your night, all.